Speaking of Arsenal, though, it's been the numbers are out after all the apologies and sorries, and we made mistakes, and all the results are now out to confirm that if VAR had made the correct decisions in games, if you remove VAR errors, Arsenal would be second in the league and just 1 point off the top. Liverpool have gained, Potsy, 7 points from incorrect decisions that have helped them this season. Gooners are going mad. They feel robbed by this. They feel vindicated if you're calling out the PGMOL. What are you saying?
Mate, Bournemouth must be pissed then because they're third apparently in the league. Look, I'm. If it wasn't for referees and red cards, Arsenal win the league. That's what we hear, right? That's what we hear, and there's evidence now to suggest that could be the case. I'm not one of those fans, bro. You know me. I'm not going to sit there and start crying. I can understand why people get frustrated by VAR, but I don't think that we can rely on technology, competence levels of refereeing or officials to win a Premier League. You have to look at yourself, because as much as it might be true that VAR has definitely not helped certain teams and has definitely helped other teams, you have to look at yourself and your own performances, because if you're relying on VAR or referee to win you a game, you got to look at your performance. You ain't been good enough. Yeah. You need to win comfortably in games to believe and deserve it. That's very difficult to do, Tel. Very, very, very difficult to do. But I look at the situation this season and I do not look at VAR, referees, red cards, and incompetent referees as the reasons as to why Arsenal are in the position they are. I look at the football club themselves and I look at some of the player performances and some of the in-game management from Mikel Arteta as the reason that we are. And people don't like to hear that because they want it not to be those reasons. They want it to be, we've done everything we can this season. We're the best team by far. It's everyone else's problem and it's everyone else's fault. And that's just not true, in my opinion. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on it generally. I don't know what your thoughts are on generally. I don't know if you believe that is the case and if you believe that VAR have mugged us off and they have cheated Arsenal from winning a potential title. Because we might still be a point off Liverpool and still not win the league, right?
So,
but what?
Yeah.
Go on.
So I look at it this way. Based on the apologies, the red card overturns, and then the sort of the consensus by the PGMOL of what they got right and what they got wrong, the table don't lie. Liverpool would have less points if they gave, in the moment, the decisions that they considered to be wrong afterwards. I think I said that the right way. So, in this particular season, and this is where I think Arsenal fans need to be mindful of what they say, and Liverpool fans calm down before you go mad, because you're not going to dislike what I say, I think. In this particular season, in this particular title race, the VAR decisions that have gone for Liverpool and the ones that have gone for Arsenal have led and created a bit more of a disparity. However, that doesn't mean you can discount the misses from Kai Havertz in certain games. Some of the, I still think Trossard's red card was silly. He booted that ball away in anger. Shouldn't have done it. You were leading. You were the better team at that point. Rodri had gone off. So if you use those couple of examples, there's some draws that you've had this season where you had 10v10, and I still think you didn't create enough and scored. Equally, it's not an overarching piece of evidence that there's a conspiracy against Arsenal. And the reason why I say that is because last season, if you think about Dorgu, fly kicking, whoever it was in the chest, McAllister in the chest as an example, there was Arsenal's handball against Liverpool last season. And Liverpool fans will remember many, many more of them. Last year, I think that Liverpool were really hard done by VAR as well. My attention on this isn't Arsenal there's a conspiracy against Arsenal, there's a conspiracy against Man United. We'd be higher in the league this year, by the way, if VAR. We've had some bad ones this season too. My focus is more about fans coming together and calling out VAR and the PGMOL in its entirety. The problem is it becomes your club doesn't deserve this league title. We do because of this. That creates a tribalistic response. And the people that get away with all the mistakes are the PGMOL because no one's actually focused on them. It becomes a fight between the fans of who deserves it and who doesn't. Your title is tarnished. There's an asterisk next to it. Oh, etc., etc. I do think there's been decisions this year that have gone against Arsenal, some of which by the letter of the law are red cards or X, Y, and Z. But then we haven't seen that same vim. There hasn't been the same They haven't maintained that rule as an example. But I've also seen it happen to Liverpool. So I go all the way back to that Rodri handball against Everton as an example. They might not have scored the penalty. They may have done. That could have changed the course of that season. Last year, I think both Liverpool and Arsenal got hard done by some of the decisions that went Chelsea's way. I mean, the fact they've said this season, the PGMOL, that if you stud somebody above the ankle, it's an instant card. And the fact that since they made that statement, we've seen about 7 tackles above the ankle with studs and no red cards. And the same people a year before didn't say that Dorgu should have been sent off. And again, none of this is about shitting on City, shitting on Liverpool, shitting on Arsenal. It's about focusing on the incompetent referees that look after our game and the fact that nobody really, in my opinion, holds them accountable. We take the information that's given to us and we turn it into Arsenal been cheated, therefore Liverpool don't deserve it. And it becomes a fight amongst the fans as opposed to a organized sort of piece of criticism with everybody coming together to criticize the PGMOL. My final thoughts on it will be this. We saw it midweek last week. The final goal for Everton. I got gaslit and lied to. I was told that Mo Salah was fouled in the build-up to the goal. Turned out it was 7 minutes earlier, right? You can't always trust fans. But there was a little nudge in the back of Konate. And a lot of Liverpool fans who come on my show, it's a foul, it's always a foul. Same Liverpool fans a week later, little nudge in the back from Diaz on whoever the Wolves centre-back was. No, completely different. Never a foul, never a foul. And that, for me, there lies the issue. If you want to call out VAR, the PGMOL, and bad mistakes, I think you have to do it whether you benefit or whether you get hurt by these decisions. And until we start doing that on a regular basis, we're never going to see a change. So, yeah, look, I think Arsenal have been hard done by this year in places, but Liverpool have been hard done by. Next year, it could be a different team, and Arsenal benefit from it as an example. The focus shouldn't be, oh, woe is me.
Both things can be true as well. Like, I'm not saying that the referees have been fine against Arsenal and there's been no mistakes whatsoever. Every single red card and every decision should have been the way it was. I'm not saying that. But I'm not using that as the only excuse as to why Arsenal are not going to win something this season. I mean, we still might win the league or the Champions League. I'm not going to use that as an excuse because that, for me, we have to look more at our club and say, what did we not do? And that was 2 shambolic transfer windows, and we've still got in-game management problems, in my opinion, for Mikel Arteta. I think he, at the time, this season at times, has been poor with some of his tactics, poor with some of his subs, and poor with some of his style of play, which has been quite robotic and horrible to watch at times. So that, for me, is definitely on top of the fact that the referees are doing us no favours, which I don't expect them to do, and the red cards and the stuff that we've had on top of that has been difficult for us to deal with injuries. Right? That's definitely 100%. All those things are correct and they're all true. But that is not a reason to say, well, look at that league table. It shows that VAR is against us and that's the reason we're not going to win the league. No, it's not. VAR can be against you and you can still win games. You can win the game 4-0 and VAR said you should have won 6-0. Right? But you still won the game 4-0. So it's not, oh, VAR was against us. We didn't win the game 1-0 or 2-1. We drew that 1-1. So there's a lot of it, in my opinion. But I don't know what LB thinks. Looking at that table, it just gives an. I think LB probably thinks it gives Arsenal fans an excuse to moan and cry.
You know what my opinion is on the referee talk? I think it's ridiculous. I think it's crazy stuff. Simple. You've not been good enough. That's why you're second. City are 5th or 4th, whatever you are, because we've not been good enough. Yeah? The league table don't lie, man. You can talk about referees all you want. The fact is, you ain't been good enough, and that's why you're not going to win the league. If you're good enough, you win the league. Yeah, people want to talk about the referee decisions, VAR, blah, 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 blah. Just say you ain't been good enough, man. That's the truth. We ain't going to win the Champions League because we weren't good enough in the first leg. Nothing to do with refereeing decisions. We ain't won the league this year because we've not been good enough. Nothing to do with refereeing decisions. Same with Arsenal, man. This is just the truth. Yeah, that's it, man. I got nothing to say on the referees, man, because for me, I just completely disagree that, like, when people talk about the referees, like, at the end of the day, have a moan about it, whatever. But if you think, that your season has gone a different route because of the referees, then just stop watching the football then. Stop watching it. And conversation.
I agree, man. I can't. Yeah. I can't disagree with that. I think Arsenal have been good enough so far. That's why they're not going to win the league. Unless things change and we start to become better and Liverpool drop off, that is the only chance we've got. And in the Champions League, exactly the same. The way we play, we're not going to win the Champions League. And it's nothing to do with VARs or referees.
And I see it a little differently to you two. I think that people should be calling this out, but I think that you just got to keep the same energy when you benefit if you truly want to make it change.
Exactly that.
That's where, I mean, I get a lot of stick for calling this stuff out, but My agenda isn't about saying Arsenal, there's a conspiracy against Arsenal, there's a conspiracy against United, there's a conspiracy against Oldham Athletic. It's more about the lies. Like when they sent off, I actually hate when it's against Arsenal because people don't want to listen. The lie they told after they sent Lewis Skelly off, that all tackles where the studs touch above the ankle are instant red cards, so there's no argument. The fact they published that and said it to the world, that's the bit that gets me. It's like, why would you insult our intelligence? And that my biggest concern, if you're lying about that, what else do you lie about? What I don't believe is they wake up in the morning and go, right, today, this is who we hurt. Next week, this is. I think they get it. I think they're just incompetent more so than anything else, but it certainly needs calling out. This here says, Dan, it's the red cards we've gotten that we'll never see again in this league. It's the gaslighting from the media and the PGMOL. I agree we did not do enough in the transfer window, but both things can be true.
Yeah, and that's what I said. That's literally what I said a couple of minutes ago, that both things can be true. So I agree with that.
I really think there's a conspiracy. How about Arsenal being fined by the FA for Oliver's mistake? So on this is where I will slightly defend. Well, I will defend the FA. Oliver making a mistake doesn't mean that your players are allowed to surround and shout at a referee. Where I'll defend Arsenal is if they don't consistently fine teams that surround referees, because you see it happen in most games. So I think there's, again, the previous person, Manny, said two things can be right at the same time. It's not wrong that Arsenal have got in trouble for surrounding the referee, because that's the rules. And what we're asking for is the referees to imply the actual rules and the FA. However, where it's harsh is if they don't do it to everybody. And I've seen multiple players shout at refs and then the teams ain't charged the next day. So it's about calling them into account and understanding what the differences are. Some goals mentioned here.